This is Caring for Kids on News Talk 760 WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. And here's your host, President and CEO of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, Larry Burns.
Well, thanks, Mark. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Caring for Kids. This is our February edition. Tonight, we're going to have Dr. Richard Humes, Chief of Cardiology at the Children's Hospital of Michigan right here in Detroit, and Jay Reddy, founder of the nonprofit organization Life Lab Kids, and also CEO of his IT firm, JRD Systems. And last but certainly not least, someone who is no stranger to the airways of WJR, Paul W. Smith, our very own Paul W. Smith. It's all coming up next, right here on Caring for Kids, on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Larry Burns here, Caring for Kids. In the studio, Dr. Richard Humes is the Chief of Cardiology at the Children's Hospital of Michigan right here in Detroit. He's also a professor of pediatrics at Wayne State University and has written many medical publications over the years. Dr. Humes received his medical education and training from the Mayo School of Graduate Medical Education and our very own Wayne State University. Dr. Humes, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you very much for having me.
So glad that you're here. I know how busy you are since cardiology services at Children's Hospital of Michigan are a mainstay of the hospital. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me and for our listeners to hear more about cardiology services at Children's Hospital. Can you give us an overview of the services in general?
Sure. The answer sort of depends on what people have as in terms of their own experience about cardiology in children. I've certainly run into many people who have no idea that children have heart problems. Mm-hmm. I've seen that many times over the years and are very surprised to hear that children have heart problems. Everybody knows adults have heart problems, right. And most families have experience with adults with heart problems. But children's heart problems are different. And we take care of both children with birth defects of the heart. That's probably the mainstay of our working life. But we also deal with a lot of children with suspected heart problems, who hopefully, and a lot of times turn out not to have anything specifically wrong with the heart.
And so, is it safe to say that the majority of heart problems in kids are things that they didn't cause? Meaning lifestyle and adults, if you don't take care of yourself and you don't exercise, you might develop some heart problems. With the kids, it sounds like many of them are born with these issues or evolve over time.
That's exactly right. About 1% of the population, a little less than 1% actually, are born with birth defects of the heart.
Okay, 1%, small group.
Small group. But as I say to many parents when I talk to them about it, 1% is a bigger number than they probably realize.
Right.
And not all of those problems are, everybody thinks of the heart, and unfortunately the worry level goes way up because heart problems are equated to death and dying and things like that. And fortunately, that's not really the case in what I have to deal with. Even if the problems are severe, not all of the problems that we deal with, even birth defects of the heart, are severe. Some of them self-correct and go away. Some of them require multiple heart surgeries over a child's lifetime. So there's a huge spectrum of the types of problems that we see, and a lot of variety in the things that we see too.
Now, you and I worked together the last time I was at Children's in the 80s, and I'd just like to ask, how have things changed since I left in 1990? Now it's 2019. How have things in your specialty changed over those years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think, like almost everything else in our lives these days, the answer is going to be technology. I give some talks occasionally that are more historical in nature, talking about things that have happened in my specialty over the years and the advances that have been made. And if you really step back from that and look at it, that's been true forever in pediatric cardiology. I mean, there wasn't really much in the way of pediatric cardiology until late 40s, early 50s. And then what started it going? Well, again, it was technology. The biggest deal being the development of the first heart-lung pump where you could operate on somebody with certain heart problems. Before that, you couldn't do anything. And so it was a little bit more of a dismal thing to have early on. Nowadays, we can take care of almost anything that children are born with. And nowadays, again, technologically driven, a lot of that doesn't require an operation. Many of those things we can do in the heart catheterization laboratory. Doesn't make the surgeons real happy that we're able to do that, but many things can be done.
Less invasive.
Less invasive.
Yes. Doesn't
even leave a mark.
Yes. We're talking with Dr. Richard Humes, Chief of Cardiology at our Children's Hospital of Michigan. And one of the things I always like to ask physician leaders like yourself is, what makes a dedicated, freestanding pediatric children's hospital different than a community-based pediatric unit, in particular in cardiology? And what makes our Children's Hospital of Michigan so very special?
I think it's the breadth of services that we're able to offer. Something that dedicates all of the resources of a hospital to children will have more depth, more available stuff, more cutting-edge consultants. You rarely in that setting find a problem that can't be taken care of within that facility. And you're not in a setting where many community hospitals might be, where you need to send that patient away to get their care.
And over the years, you've been a big supporter of our ability to raise money with your grateful patients and things of that nature. And also, we've supported you as best we could, and we hope to do that even more. And so what are the things based on pediatric cardiology research that our listeners need to know about that either have taken place at Children's or are taking place right now?
Well, our division in cardiology is very active from a research standpoint. I looked at our activity in 2018, just as an example, and found that just from our division we had, I think, 64 published papers and four book chapters just from the people in our division, just in that 1 year. Now, most of that is what we would classify as clinical research about patients, about patient outcomes, about things that we do for patients. A lot of people think of research, of course, in its test tubes and laboratories and things like that. And that clinical research isn't all of that. Sometimes it's just using the patient and the hospital experience as your laboratory to look at your outcomes, find out what works, find out what can be done better, and publish it so that everybody else works on the same level.
Yes, and again, Dr. Richard Humes, Chief of Cardiology at Children's Hospital of Michigan. And I know we've supported over the years some heart monitors.
Yes.
That patients take home, and so tell us a little bit about that.
As I mentioned before, we will occasionally, maybe a dozen times or more a year, run into patients who have very complex heart problems as infants. And these are the infants that need multiple heart surgeries even within the first year of life. And with that burden initially, they're kind of fragile. They need to be watched very, very closely. But of course, we don't want to keep them in the hospital for months at a time. We want them to be able to enjoy life at home and still provide that monitoring. So we developed an application that went on a laptop or a pad computer, and it allows the parents to do a lot of the monitoring for us and get that information back to us promptly so that we can take care of them from a distance.
Yes, and they can be home and go to school and do the things they need to do.
Exactly.
Yes. And so before we finish, Dr. Humes, what else do you want our listeners to know about the work that you and your colleagues are doing at Children's, or any advice that for parents, grandparents that might be listening as it relates to cardiology and youngsters?
I guess I would tend to be very hopeful. Parents that I see, again, are often very, very scared of learning that their child has a heart problem. And the future for them and the things that need to be done are often very, very bright. Virtually all of the things that we see for children, or even things that are suspected in children, we can take care of.
Yes, well, you certainly are an iconic brand at Children's Hospital, and I know many people, particularly on the east side, that are so grateful for your services over the years and that are doing great and now are young adults or adults. So that's a great thing. One last question, because I think it is maybe specific to cardiology. For most services, I believe, care for Children's Hospital stops at about 18. But I've heard that some cardiology patients, that pediatric cardiologists will follow them into adulthood.
Indeed, we actually have a separate service within our service that we call the Michigan Adult Congenital Heart Disease Center. Again, patients with complex heart disease are often not well served in the adult cardiology community, and that's not saying bad things about adult cardiologists. Right. It's just that they don't have the requisite training to understand some of these complex heart problems. And so we continue to take care of, not all, but many now young adults and even older adults in that particular center.
Good. Continual service. Thank you, Dr. Humes. Dr. Richard Humes, Chief of Cardiology at the Children's Hospital of Michigan, Professor at Wayne State University. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Jay Reddy. Jay is the founder of a new nonprofit organization called Life Lab Kids. That's when caring for kids continues. Here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR, presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.
In the studio right now is Mr. Jay Reddy. He's the founder of a new nonprofit organization, Life Lab Kids, and he's the CEO of an IT firm, JRD Systems. His nonprofit, Life Lab Kids, aims to help children unlock a fulfilling life, engaging their passions and increasing their long-term health, happiness, and productivity. It's kind of what our foundation is aiming to do as well. With this new organization, Jay wanted to create a program that supports the child in a fun and accepting environment while meeting the family's needs. Life Lab Kids will encourage play, fitness, creativity, and technology. So, Jay, welcome to Caring for Kids.
Thank you, Larry. Thanks for hosting.
Appreciate it. That is great stuff. And we've known each other for about a year or so, and this journey has been a good one, and we need to tell our listeners about it. So if you don't mind, sort of starting with your personal story, telling us a little bit about the company that you started and run, and then we'll get into Life Labs.
Thanks, Larry. I went to school at Andrews University near Berrien Springs, and I graduated in 97. I happened to start an IT company, right after my graduation, and we make software for companies that are looking to make some custom software in transportation, food distribution, logistics area. And we've been doing that for almost 15 years now.
Okay.
So we serve customers in both in the West Michigan as well as in the Detroit area.
Good.
2 kids. One is going to be 12 next week, and then another one is 1 year old.
And I know you have a dog.
Yeah, I have a dog.
I've seen pictures of the dog. Tell our listeners how much your dog weighs.
Oh, it's about 230 pounds. He's an English Mastiff. So
And I thought Oswald, our Airedale, was big. He's 90. That's awesome. But I've seen great pictures with your kids. So
I sure didn't know what I was getting into.
I know that, but you love him. I do know that as well. And so now let's talk about this other journey that you've started with your new organization that is known as Life Lab Kids. So tell us about that.
Absolutely. About 10 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism. And prior to that, I was not aware of the term autism.
Yeah, you weren't aware.
Yeah, it was brand new to me, and I was probably in a shock for a few years. It took me a while. At that time, there was not many services that were covered by insurance, before the legislation passed. Right. So it was a lot of expense too. And my thought process was that why should these kids be spending so much more? I wanted to have a school in place similar to a public school, but made for them.
Okay. Kids with autism.
Yeah, kids with autism. And I kind of thought about it for a few years, and then suddenly the legislation kicked in, and insurance coverage was in effect.
This is the ABA, right?
Yeah, the ABA part of it.
Right.
And as the time rolled on, I discovered that, they need so much more than the typical ABA.
Right.
So that's when I started getting help from ski schools, swim schools, horse riding therapy, and all these areas. So I noticed the difference in my son, the tremendous difference that would bring in, because we tend to focus on the most immediate thing. When parents know that their kid is diagnosed with some kind of special needs, so they're in a shock, and all you know is what you're told, which is the typical behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
You're not thinking too much because, it's something that you're not expecting.
Right.
All these things, if they're given to them at a very early age, and we provide the right balance, I felt you could discover and explore so much more.
And that's when the idea of Life Lab Kids became your dream.
Absolutely. And then prior to Life Lab, I had a different foundation because I was trying to do charitable work. And so I registered something, and then I was trying to raise funds and donating it to similar organizations. And about 3 years ago or 2 years ago is when I kind of solidified the idea of having.
Yeah, you figured out maybe you can do it better.
Absolutely. And then I wanted a name that reflects what we do, not a Reddy Foundation or something of that nature.
Life Labs.
So Life Lab Kids made sense.
So then you needed to find a location, and you found one?
Oh yeah, I was not ready to start this till probably mid-2019. And I bumped into this property, which seemed to be in the middle of everything. And I couldn't say no to that opportunity, and we started, looking at the property, and it kind of covered all the aspects that I wanted. A little different than the architecture that I would envision, but it covered every aspect with the life skills area, with the sports area, with the therapy area. It had everything in it with a large parking lot.
Good. And that's in Ferndale?
In Ferndale, downtown.
Excellent. And our very own Dave Coulter, the mayor of Ferndale, is excited to have you be part of Ferndale now, too. And we're talking with Jay Reddy, founder of the nonprofit organization Life Lab Kids. He's an entrepreneur. He's a dad. And he's creating this new organization that's going to open up soon. So tell us about what happens next.
We would start therapy. Pretty much all the leads are in place. We've hired the program leads for each of these programs, which is art, music, speech, occupation, therapy, technology, and life skills. We have different leaders for each of these areas. We have the place ready to go. So it'll be I could see a lot of teething problems initially. However, we do have a good program in place for each of these
Good,
areas.
and you have good people. I've met several of them, and I believe, if I'm correct, a couple of them are Central Michigan graduates.
Correct.
Yes, my alma mater.
Yeah.
They produce great folks in this area.
They're amazing, yeah.
And so I actually saw a picture of them painting the walls. And so we now, the foundation, the Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation and Life Lab Kids has a partnership. So tell our listeners about what our partnership is all about.
So Children's Hospital played a big role in getting this place up and running. I mean, especially you, Larry. I mean, the meetings I had with you were very helpful, and it also helped me understand the nonprofit world better. I'm very new to this, while I have a pretty good business background.
Yes.
I had no clue about this nonprofit space. So that really helped, and the donation that Children's Hospital has given us helped us tremendously as well, and also puts pressure on me to do this right and be successful.
Right. Well, hopefully the pressure is good pressure. Yeah. But we're delighted to be a partner at the foundation, and we've also connected you with Children's Hospital. So you mentioned that with the autism groups at Children's Hospital.
Yep.
So that's a good connection. So it really is an integrated relationship, and we're delighted that we found you and that we have the opportunity to work together. And I know you're going to be successful. And so, before we finish, tell our listeners how they might find out more information about Life Labs.
So you guys could go to our website, which is lifelabkids.org or
lifelabkids.org.
Correct.
Okay.
Or
good.
llkf.org.
Okay.
Or on Facebook and Instagram as well, Life Lab Kids.
Okay.
Go online and look at our programs, and then reach out to us on the phone number listed or the email. And one of our therapists will get in touch and start the intake process.
Good. Optimally, how many students do you want to have?
We were looking to start with 50.
That's what I thought, 50.
Yeah, 50 kids, but we do see that enrollment is happening fast.
All right. Well, Jay, thank you very much. Congratulations on this journey. And I know you're going to be successful, and we look forward to a long partnership with Life Lab Kids and Children's Hospital Michigan Foundation.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
You very much. Yep.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Paul W. Smith. We have a great announcement to mention that involves our foundation and Paul W., and so you don't want to go anywhere. That's when Caring for Kids continues here on the great voice of the Great Lakes, News Talk 760 WJR.
Welcome back to Caring for Kids on WJR. Presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Once again, here's Larry Burns.
Born and raised in Monroe, Michigan, Paul W. Smith is an award-winning radio personality in Metro Detroit and beyond, hosting the Paul W. Smith Show on WJR every morning. Paul started his broadcasting career in Toledo, Ohio, hosting both radio and television shows before transitioning to larger markets in New York City and Philadelphia. Today, Paul has a remarkable career with Detroit's own WJR News Talk 760, where in 23 years, he has been consistently rated as the #1 radio program in all of Metro Detroit. Paul is also known for his annual golf classic that has raised over $6 million for Detroit children's charities since 2004. It's an honor and a privilege to have Paul W. Smith on Caring for Kids. Paul?
Oh, my goodness. It's an honor to be here with you. I feel immediately remiss in not having my bow tie.
Exactly.
But I still don't know how to tie the doggone thing.
Well, we're working on that.
No one better than you to teach me how to tie that thing.
Yes, we will do that.
You've done a great job here on WJR on the fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. and it's an honor to be on your February Caring for Kids show. And I love the piece, too, that you do monthly in Crane's Detroit Business. I think that's well done to let us know and keep us up on what's happening for the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. Job well done.
Well, thank you very much. And that's a great example of integrating messaging with the great WJR and Crane's. And so the radio show lives a lot longer than just 1 hour. And so appreciate it. That was the idea of our friend Ron Fournier, who's no longer with Crane's, but he came up with that idea. And then Casey Crane, our mutual friend, has kept that going, and I'm appreciative of that. So thanks.
That's a nice thing. It helps, as you say, it expands the reach, makes the what you do on the radio here even better.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to talk to you first. Wanted to say hi to you and Always like having you on our show, and I get quite nervous to interview a legend like you.
Oh, jeez. Come on, how long have we known each other?
For
longer than I've been at WJR.
Yeah, exactly. So more like almost 30 years. So
yeah,
I was in high school.
Yeah.
At Austin Catholic.
I was your teacher in high school.
Right.
Wait a minute. No, that's Tom Romer. He was my teacher in high school.
Who's
that's
also my friend from Toledo.
Yes, indeed.
And so I mentioned $6 million. That is
net. By the way, I always use net because I saw golf tournaments before mine got started that used figures. We raised $1 million. How much did the charity get? $100,000. You know, I mean, that happens because these tournaments are expensive to do. So I said from the beginning, we have to use net figures.
Yeah,
and that's why the last few times, 500,000 or thereabouts net dollars was significant and a big deal. And we did raise 5 or 6 million net dollars primarily for Detroit PAL. And then they introduced their own fundraising, and we were kind of, I don't want to say getting in the way of each other, but we were at cross purposes, going to the same clients and sponsors who I'd had in my golf tournament for years and hitting them up twice. And I thought, well, you guys handle yours, because they raised like $18 million for their new corner facility and all of that.
Right.
And I said, I want to expand this thing to beyond Detroit PAL. So we added the Children's Center. We added Variety Detroit, the children's charity, in a big way. I've known about Variety for years, but Kim, my wife Kim, has been on their board. And then you and I spoke, and you made a wonderful offer for the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But this whole thing started because our late general manager, Mike Feasy, saw me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, doing all these different charity events. And he said, you know, you ought to pick one charity and make it your own. Well, I did that, but I still try to help out with as many charities as I can.
Yes, you do.
But we decided that the old J.P. McCarthy PAL tournament could be revived and given some new life if I took that over. And so, in fact, that's what I did 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
That's the history in a nutshell of the now Paul W. Smith Golf Classic to benefit children's charities.
And so, who are some of the sponsors that are still with you, that have been with you, that really make it so successful?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dan Lepp at Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Care Network, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, I guess the official way to refer to them. He's been with us from the beginning, said he'd stay with us for the duration. Jerry Anderson, DTE Energy, and General Motors, Toyota, and some others have been there. Those are tournament sponsor is now called Ford. The presenting sponsors are the ones I just mentioned.
Right.
And then there's a whole bunch of other people. You look at people like Absopure, been there from the beginning. William Patrick Young, David Dowk of AAM has been a big regular. Barton Mallow, the Mybeck family, they've been a big supporter of PAL. We couldn't do it without Bridgestone. Shannon Quinn, who donates wonderful prizes for our golfers, presents for our golfers, because when I came in, I said, I don't want us to spend money that we could spend on the kids for stuff.
Yeah. So
Bridgestone stepped up and have done a tremendous job. You know, Dana's back, speaking of Toledo and Toledo area, Jim Kamsiskis. Nick DeMarco at Delta with one of the best prizes ever. Now, Bridgestone provides the golf equipment as you know how you go to a golf tournament and they give you stuff.
Yeah.
Bridgestone, fabulous in golf equipment. Delta, the finest prize in all of these golf tournaments. We're talking first-class tickets anywhere they fly in the continental U.S. for each of the four members, or I guess 2 courses. There's a total of 8. It's really tremendous. And Ray Scott has gotten Lear back in, kept that going. David Fisher at Suburban, Tom Chelani. I mean, the list is forever of people who are helping us make a difference in children's lives for the longest time for PAL, but now the Children's Center, Variety Detroit, the Children's Charity. And let's talk about that Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation, of which you're the president and CEO, Larry.
I am. I am honored to have that role. And so we have an announcement. I wanted to use this radio show and ask you to tell our listeners about who your newest partner is and why that excites you.
Well, it excites me that you, Larry Burns, offered to me, because you see me running around. You've known me a long time.
Yes, I do.
I would say it goes without saying I'm not one of the most organized guys because I don't have a team. I mean, Ann Thomas, God bless her, produces my radio show, but and my wife Kim helps me with all the other things, including the show. But it's not like I have a staff of people that keep things on the railroad tracks here and keep them going. And when you add to that the complexity of this golf tournament, and the people at Campbell Marketing, Campbell Company, have done a marvelous job over the years, and they will continue to help. But you offered some of your framework, and I know how organized you are because I've known you for over 30 years. I know how you do things. And when you said, maybe my people can help you as well, I said, oh, my goodness gracious, well, that would be fabulous. And if that's the case, we certainly want to be helpful to the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. So that's really kind of how this new partnership has come around. And I couldn't be more excited because I welcome the professional expertise and help that you and your people bring to the party, Larry.
Well, thank you. And we're so excited. You now can say you have a team that's on the second floor of the Fisher Building who's going to make this tournament the best it's ever been. And we are completely dedicated to helping you and these great companies that you mentioned, so that we can help these charities. And by the way, when we started talking, you probably didn't know, but you know now that each one of your current charities are current partners of the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. So it's family members sort of helping family members, and our relationship with you and WJR, it just makes so much sense. And when you came and said, let's do it, it made my year. So thank you very much for that.
Well, I can't even begin to thank you for everything that you are planning on helping us with along the way in the new tournament, August 5th. Of this year, 16th annual at the Detroit Golf Club, a beautiful facility. It is a lot of fun, and one of the things we've always tried to do is to keep it moving, to get people in and out at a reasonable hour. We don't want it to be, some of these things the term I've heard for years is a death march.
Right.
Where it just takes a long time and you wait and wait and wait. We don't want to do that. And we've pretty much been able to accomplish that by moving things along. And I just want to make sure that we follow through. We've had a number of people who were trying to sponsor us and didn't get responded to fast enough, and we couldn't get them in. And I feel bad about that. Anything that keeps us from getting as much money as we can for these children's charities, we need to fix, and you're going to help us do that.
Absolutely, and so another thing the course this year will even be more exciting for people because they'll have just seen it in June on national TV in the new Quicken Loans PGA tournament, and so to be able to have people play at a golf course that they just saw on television with the best players in the world will make it even more exclusive. So we're excited about that.
And I hope that our past sponsors and people who would like to help sponsor are hearing that loud and clear. We have not made this a success, frankly, by selling playing spots. In fact, that's not exactly what we want and need to do. We want and need to sign up sponsors who get playing spots as part of their package. They get advertising, they get in the program, they get talked about on WJR, they get all of that, and they get some playing spots. Because if we were to just do it selling playing spots, we would never make enough money to help all these charities. By doing it through sponsorships, and then because they're a sponsor, they get playing spots, I hope that people who really want to play that same track that the Quicken Loans PGA tournament will have just finished on will urge their bosses, their CEOs, their owners to take a look at the possibility of joining us. And they can go to paulwsmithgolf.com, paulwsmithgolf.com, or I suspect they'll be able to get more information on your website.
Exactly.
chmfoundation.org.
.org, yes, exactly.
And I know you've got a child and adolescent behavioral health summit coming up.
May 14th.
And more information there at chmfoundation.org. And they'll see all of the great things that you are doing, Larry Burns, and the fact that you've offered to help us. I cannot thank you enough.
Well, you're most welcome. I look forward to it. We're going to have fun, and best of all, we're going to do great things for kids and their families. So, Paul, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Larry Burns.
This will also give me an opportunity and my bride, Judy, to see you more often.
Well, that'd be great.
Yes.
Well, if we ever move to to our house in Grosse Pointe, we'll see you more often.
That'll happen. So look forward to seeing you, and thanks again. Look forward to this great tournament in August.
Thanks for your help, Larry,
Alrighty,
and all your team.
Thank you very much. That was my friend and WJR's very own Paul W. Smith. And coming up next, I'm going to introduce you to this month's Northwestern Mutual Little Champion and provide an update on some foundation news here on the great voice of the Great Lakes. News Talk 760 WJR.
It's Caring for Kids with Larry Burns.
Well, this was a great show. I'm very excited to be working with Paul W. Smith and his Golf Classic and the charities that we'll be supporting. So, but I'm very excited right now to talk about the Little Champion. The Little Champion program honors children who have overcome major obstacles in their young lives and continue to tackle those challenges with a smile each and every day. And this month, the Little Champion is 13-year-old Elizabeth from St. Clair Shores, Michigan. Elizabeth was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, a disease that limits her ability to breathe. However, Elizabeth refuses to allow this to keep her down. She's very active in dance and is even performing a special solo routine to promote awareness of her condition. Elizabeth's resilience and fighting spirit amidst these challenges is exactly what being a Little Champion is all about. So congratulations, Elizabeth, this month's Little Champion. For more information on the Little Champion program and how you can nominate a child, please visit chmfoundation.org/champion. So that's great. Elizabeth, congratulations. And I also wanted to fill you in on a few important dates for the foundation. One is May 14th, our first annual Mental Health Summit at the Inn at St. John's. Our third annual Derby for Kids, Saturday, May 4th at the Country Club of Detroit. And, as we mentioned, the Paul W. Smith Golf Classic, August 5th, 2019, Detroit Golf Club. Thanks for listening. We're going to see you next time on Caring for Kids, Indeed.
Caring for Kids on WJR has been presented by the Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation.